for whom I toil. Hi, Dad. I don't know how you are going to react to this letter. Perhaps with a lot of relief, as now I won't be there to trouble you. I really want to indulge in wishful thinking that you will burst into tears when this letter reaches you. But I know such a thing won't happen. Yes, you will cry for the kharab kismat that the Uparwala gave to you. You always blamed fate for giving you such a useless son. I still remember you talking to Swamiji many years ago that if God had given you a son who had turned into a criminal or a fraud or a loafer, तो कोई बात नहीं थी. But ऐसा लड़का दे दिया ऊपर वाले ने. One who prefers males as partners. Swamiji had then tried to explain how in your past lives you had committed so many sins, as a result of which you were now getting the punishment in this life. I can't now remember how many swamis, maulvis, priests, tantrics, astrologers, babas and counselors you took me to, all in the attempt to make me straight. I knew they would just question my integrity and unnatural behavior. All of them promised you they will make me straight. Though each one of them knew that this won't happen, it cannot happen. Dad, when you had left me at... I don't want to name him. But when I was left in that camp, Dad, you have no idea what was my condition. The mornings would begin at 6 a.m. with flogging. And with each strike of the stick, I would be asked to repeat loudly, I am normal, I am normal, I am straight. Oh, shit. When you and Mom came to pick me up after 2 months and were very shocked at my decreased weight, I chose not to tell you the reality of the camp. And then I met Sri. It seemed that we were made for each other. First in the school, and then throughout college, we remained the best friends. Very few people realized that we were partners. Yes, you got to know about it, Dad. When both Sri and myself qualified for the nation's topmost engineering institute, I knew you were more surprised than happy. Because somehow you thought that people like us, people like me and Sri, we are unintelligent and cannot reach the top. The money and the power that you possessed was used to harass us in such atrocious ways. When for the first time Sri and I were attacked outside the pub, we thought it was a robbery. We only realized almost 6 hours later that both our wallets were intact. Then the attacks began to happen quite often. Initially, Sri and I thought that those were stray incidents. But then we found a pattern in them. When we would be partying, picnicking with our friends, or out drinking as a group, the attacks never happened. It was only when Sri and myself were alone that we would be attacked. Little did we know then that the worst was still to come. Sri and I secretly planned to go abroad for our master's program so that we could settle in a far more accepting country. Boy, did we begin to study hard for getting a scholarship to a good university. But you found out about our plans. And poor Sri was thrown out from the coaching center for something as frivolous as smoking in the center's corridor. Yes, The, the boy shown in the CCTV footage resembled Sri, was wearing the same t shirt and the cap that Sri has. But other than me, Dad, no one knew that Sri hated cigarette smoke and could not bear to be near anyone smoking. Sri was devastated. He was always the gentle one and took these threats, beatings, and conspiracies to heart. He wallowed in despair and gloom. I saw him wasting away each day, and it was so painful, Dad. As usual, Sri's reaction was to avoid eating. He began to skip meals. I tried my best to cheer him up, but I knew he suffered terribly when every day I would go to the coaching center. Sri was convinced that I will win the scholarship and go abroad, leaving him behind all alone. It took all my will and convincing power to assure him that I wouldn't ever leave him. And then, just as he was recovering, some mischief mongers in the college got to know about us. On 7th July, Monday, as we entered the college, we saw the entire corridor of the college covered with our posters, embracing, hugging, even kissing each other. All the world's slants and abuses were written across our posters, including our cell numbers. "Dial them for entertainment" was printed in the boldest letters. The whistles, jeers, rants, and mad laughter that we encountered was the worst thing one could have ever faced. Sri collapsed then and there. Thank God, Professor Sinha rescued us and took Sri to the hospital. This incident just finished us off. Sri never recovered and left the college, and we lost touch totally. Emotionally and physically, we were bruised, hurt, tainted, and had become the laughing stock. I was forcibly brought back home by you. I don't know how you managed, but without attending any classes in the last semester, I could take the exams and got the degree also. I believe money and power gets everything done, isn't it, Dad? Soon after my graduation, I began to search for Sri everywhere. Under the pretext of appearing for job interviews, I traveled to every known place where I thought Sri could be. Back home, you and Mom thought I had come out of male partners and began to look for good matches for me. And then, without telling me or taking my consent, you fixed up my marriage with a powerful minister's daughter. All my protests fell on deaf ears. Yes, I know I was weak enough not to put my foot down. But that was because I needed all your sources and money to look for Sri. I had secretly hired a detective agency, and they had found some very promising leads. It was merely a coincidence, Dad, that I found out Sri's whereabouts on the day of my marriage. He was living in a small hamlet in the mountains. When the guy from the agency gave me his number, I just couldn't resist myself and called up Sri. I begged him to wait for me because I was coming. I was just coming there. But when I reached there, to my absolute horror, Sri had hung himself to death. Oh God. His last words in his dying note were that he wanted me to live happily without being plagued by his presence. Happily. Without him? Did Sri realize that my happiness lay in being with him, in living with him, in sharing everything with him? Dad, I'm very thankful to you for taking care of Sri's last rites. For the first time, perhaps, you kept your arms round my shoulders. I'm ever so grateful for that kind gesture. But, Dad, I can't, don't want to live now. No Sri means no me either. Sorry, Dad, but there is no reason for me to live now. I am going away too. Maybe in that next world, Sri and I may meet up. I, I'm sure you won't miss me much. Bye, Dad. Bye. Dad folded Sam's suicide letter and kept it in the upper drawer. It has been 6 years since Sam left this world. But Dad comes to his room each morning, takes out the letter, and reads it from top to bottom. By now, of course, he knows it by heart. Yet, he reads it daily. It is, after all, the last memory of his beloved departed son.